right, welcome back to Unscripted, my vlog. I'm Kat, and this is part 3 of my dance story. I'm so glad that you tuned in for part 3 of this story. Either that or you have accidentally clicked on this link and you are now desperately trying to close it before you have to listen to my voice anymore. But I hope it was the first one. So to get back into my dance story, I'm going to have to back up just a little bit. In addition to being a dancer, I'm also a mom. I have 4 children, and honestly, dance was just as much a part of my life during my childbearing years as was diapers and bottles and baby food and all of those things. I even have some crazy stories about parenting and babies and shows when they mix together. One of my favorites is about me and my good friend Katie, and how we had many conversations backstage, in some tiny little dressing area somewhere, with me just using a breast pump in between scenes during the show, so that I could feed my baby. So it was a pretty cool time. It was 2 very different worlds to be in at the same time. So I said I have 4 children, and the 4th one was born in 2012. My daughter Sutton was born that year, and I had just, right before I got pregnant, I was doing a stunt during a show, and I fractured my heel bone, that big, thick bone that makes up your entire heel on your foot. I cracked that bone, and that's a really difficult bone to crack because it's so thick. But I managed to do it. Yay me. The recovery time for breaking a bone that thick is about 10 to 12 weeks. So right before I got pregnant with Sutton, I went through that really difficult break. And of course, me, like a giant raging moron, figured out that because my heel bone was broken and not my ankle bone where the joint is, that I could still walk on my toes, even though my heel bone was broken. And so, again, like an idiot, I did that for 3 months, I think, so that when I went into Sutton's pregnancy, I was not only coming off of an injury that was pretty serious, I had also been walking irregularly for months. As difficult as that time was during Sutton's pregnancy and then shortly after, it was a really hard time. But despite that, I figured, just given time, it would all resolve itself. All of these things would eventually heal and disappear, and I would be fine again and just go back to doing everything I did before the pregnancy and all the sickness. But that's not exactly what happened. Things just progressively got worse. I was having increased back pain, joint pain, mobility issues, just overall issues with getting around and doing things. It was a difficult time, and it got worse instead of better. By 2014, things had just gotten progressively worse and worse and worse. The back pain, the joint pain just kept increasing. I was less and less mobile, less able to do physically what I had been doing most of my life. Over the next 3 to 4 years, I saw a multitude of doctors and specialists and anyone that they could refer me to. I explained over and over and over again what was going on, and the history of my family of arthritis, and I could get no real diagnosis. And part of the reason was because as a dancer, my base level flexibility, mobility is different than the average person. So when I would go into a doctor and tell them that I was having back pain and joint pain, and I couldn't get around like I used to, and I was having neck pain and headaches and all these things, they would do their standard mobility tests and strength tests that they do for something like that. The real problem was that because my baseline is not the same as most other people, according to those doctors, I was fine. And they sort of kind of blew me off and didn't take it seriously, because in their mind, my abilities fell well within the range of normal, but they were not normal for me. And that was just devastatingly frustrating, because I knew something was happening that was keeping me from being able to do what I loved, but I couldn't get any kind of answers. It was almost as if they were trying to tell me it wasn't real. And that, after a while, makes you start to feel like you are crazy. And that's not good for anybody's mental health. The one thing that did come out of all those doctor's appointments is a lot of stuff got ruled out. So I think my doctors ruled out thyroid problems, rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune conditions, Lyme disease. I can't even name them all, but they eliminated everything else that they felt like could be causing these symptoms. And I had no answers. Then, finally, in 2018, I was finally able to go see an orthopedist who specialized in knee surgeries and knee conditions. And that doctor was willing to do an MRI once I told him about my family history. You see, my mom struggles with osteoarthritis, and her mom, my grandmother, also suffered from osteoarthritis. And my grandmother, it got so bad that she was basically bed or chair confined at the end of her life. She really couldn't even get into her wheelchair by herself, just from the degeneration of her joints and her bones. And my mom has already had 2 knee replacements. The first one was done in her mid to late 50s, which is earlier, really, than some doctors want to do knee replacements, because they don't last forever. So we had this very strong history in my family of osteoarthritis. Finally, after years of frustration, after that MRI, I actually got a diagnosis. And it was exactly what I suspected. It was osteoarthritis, or degenerative bone disease. And basically, whereas rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune condition where your immune system sort of starts attacking your joints and they get inflamed, osteoarthritis is just a combination of a hereditary condition and just damage that you do to your joints just in your life. So rheumatoid arthritis can be treated with some medications, but osteoarthritis really doesn't have any specific treatment. There's not a medication to treat osteoarthritis because it's just something that's slowly happening to your bones, as opposed to something that a medication can go in and stop or attack. Degenerative bone disease is just the bones themselves just deteriorating, specifically in the joints. Even knowing that there's really no medication treatment for osteoarthritis, once I got that diagnosis, I was pretty terrified, and I just wanted my doctors to do something. I was terrified of losing my ability to dance and then my mobility, and I just wanted them to do something. And I was told by the orthopedist that physical therapy was a much better option, and I did a little bit of it, but that, I don't know, survival instinct in me said, there's got to be a medication that will treat this. There's got to be something more you can do than just exercising. So when I went back to my primary care doctor and I talked to her about it, she presented a couple of medications that I could take, and they might help ease the symptoms. And I said, well, we got to try something. So let's do it. And so in 2018, I started taking two different medications. One in the earlier part of the year and one toward the summer. I really, really wanted to believe that these medications were going to make a difference. But it became pretty obvious, a few months after taking them or starting them, that things were not getting better. They were getting worse. It's important to remember the timeline during all of this. In 2017, I performed in 4 or 5 shows. I was dancing heavily in the Christmas show and in the Fourth Cross, and I was climbing silks and running and jumping and all these types of things in Lord of Light. These are my different shows with Narrowway. I was also working at the local theme park during Halloween season as a haunt actor, which was very physical, a lot of running and being outside on your feet, all those types of things. I had a full-time job, and I was taking dance and aerial classes. So in spite of the issues that I had been having, I was still really active and able to do a lot. Fast forward to 2018, toward the end of the year, after I started taking those two medications, and it was a very different story. By 2018, I couldn't dance well enough to perform anymore. My joints hurt all the time. I was exhausted. I was losing my balance a lot. My joints felt generally unstable, like they wouldn't support me. Even just jogging or walking for a long distance would leave me just uncomfortable and exhausted. So by the end of 2018, I had to make the very difficult decision to stop dancing. Like I said in the beginning of this story, dance is an integral part of my life. It's not just something I do, it's who I am. It's woven into my spirit. And letting that go felt like ripping away a part of my spirit, a little piece of my soul. And that was devastating. And that's where we're going to stop for today. I know, it's another cliffhanger, but we're going to stop there for now. So I hope you're enjoying the vlog. Check back soon for part 4 of my dance story. It's not that much longer, I promise. Or if you are tired of listening to my voice or looking at my face, or maybe you just haven't gotten in your required amount of social media reading this week, if that's the case, you can check out my blog, the written version of Unscripted. I'll put the link in the description down below. Also, if you want to support your local freelance writer, which is me, then you can also become a Patreon supporter if you'd like to do that. I'll put that link down there too. If you want to, like and subscribe, or don't. And always remember to love one another. Love blindly, boldly, and without bounds.